Hi,
Hi, Hannah.
how are you?
I'm good. Kind of. I had a big scare. I'm just running a lot.
Oh no.
Um, my son was in the hospital until yesterday. It was
Oh
just
no.
like, and so of course everything kind of like gets delayed, blah, 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 blah. So I'm
Yeah,
back
no.
here working from home today. Anyway,
Sorry, but glad that I hopefully got through it.
yeah, yeah, he's getting better. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
Are you
It's-
working from home too, or?
I'm in the office today.
Okay.
This feels like my first normal full week. I think I was still adjusting post holidays and everything for a little bit, and everyone is.
Yeah. Yeah. My holidays were kind of like um these were not a holiday. It was crazy because it was his birthday, but then he got sick and then we ended up in the emergency room on Sunday. So it was kind of more a nightmare than a holiday.
Wow.
Um, what did you do for your holiday? Did you do anything fun?
Um, Also I just changed my name because your name was like that. I don't know.
Oh, good.
Um, but
I haven't even paid attention. What do I need to do? Change my name?
oh no, yours just said living future community. I wasn't sure if that was on purpose, so I made mine living future community. Dash my name.
Yeah, I guess because I signed up into the ILFI's Zoom. Um,
Oh, it just automatically did that.
that's what it's called, but I can add, I think everybody can just, I can
Maybe
add my name. Ah, whatever. Yeah, that's good too. Mm.
I
Hello.
Hey Hannah,
How are you, Gwen?
good. Not really had a chance to meet Hannah. I met Hannah at one of the living building get-togethers.
yeah, good to see you. You have a nice background outside.
Thanks. This is my favorite cafe by my house.
It's
Where do you
nice.
live?
Over in the East Bay in Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm close. What's the cafe? I'm in Alameda.
this is caffeinated and it's walking distance from my house, so it gets a lot of attention from me.
I see. Hi, Austin. Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good.
We're gonna get a bunch of snow on the East Coast over here.
Ooh, exciting.
I'm hearing anything from 5 inches to 18 inches, so so
Wow.
we'll see.
Did you guys see those photos from Russia?
Yeah, yeah.
The snow covering the buildings that were like eight stories, and it was like
Hmm.
a mountain of snow on top. It's
Could not
crazy.
imagine.
But the kids were skiing down the slides of snow. I mean, it was crazy.
Kids will find
Um,
fun in any situation. That's
True.
the beauty of kids.
So let me see. I'm trying to figure out. Huh, 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 huh. Should I start sharing the presentation or?
I I think that's good, and then we can switch over to mine when it's time for the
Okay.
presentation. Welcome everybody. We're just getting started and waiting for everyone to arrive.
Yeah, let's see if I can see here. There's 18 people right now signed in. I think there were over 30. Maybe like we'll
There were
wait
like
until 12:05. What do you think?
yeah, there were like 60 signed up. But I
Oh,
feel like
really?
we yeah, but I feel like we could go ahead with the intro slides as people are trickling in since we're a little tight on time for the whole event.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So maybe we start. Welcome everyone, those of you who are here. Um, just kind of a little bit of back of house and housekeeping. This is kind of just, I'm assuming everybody who's here is a member because you were able to register for this event. And I think ILFI now kind of gives you the prompt to become a member for free. You know, there is that membership. But this is kind of just to remind you of the perks of being a member. Um, and before we begin, I think this is what we want to remind everyone about the community agreements and how we communicate and collaborate in this group and what matters to us. So here are kind of the four tenets: empathy and kindness, respect of others, good intentions, assuming good intentions, and focusing on community and relationships. So this is going to be the agenda for today. We'll just have brief introductions, and Alexandra is joining us, and she's going to talk about the Biophilic design group that is starting at ILFI. And then we have the Biophilic design charrette that is going to be led by Kristen. She's going to share her experience, and hopefully we'll learn a lot from that. And there'll be hopefully some time for Q&A. This is us, so I'll start introducing myself. I'm Diana, and I'm an architect, and I work, my experience is on K-12 mostly, and I work with QK architects designing schools, which is really exciting for me. Who wants to go next? Hannah, Kristen?
Go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, I'll go. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Shab. I'm a sustainability consultant at Stantec based in San Francisco. I have about 5 years experience working in mostly holistic sustainability, green building certifications, and lately have been really passionate and interested in regenerative design and working with colleagues on trying to expand that service and topic in our projects as much as possible.
And I'm a California leader too, but I'll introduce myself when I start the talk later on.
And then just quick plug before we move on to some of the other introductions. The Living Future Conference is this year in Seattle, April 14th to 17th. The theme is Designing the Next 100 Years. And just a quick note, if you are a professional member, you'll save 10% on the tickets. There's some really interesting topics that have already been announced. You can go online and look at the agenda. And the schedule has come out. I'm pretty sure Kirsten is speaking, which will be cool to see. I attended last year and it was great. That's actually how I got connected to this community and started my involvement with the membership community and the leadership. So really highly recommend. It's a great place to meet people in the community and just other like-minded people. So definitely sign up if you haven't already. And then next slide, just mentioned the conference, but just something to note, we're going to continue to do these California community meetings quarterly. We'll announce closer to the time of the event what the topic will be. This is our first one we're doing this year, so just keep a lookout for that on the platform, and you can sign up through the events page on the community portal. And I'll pass it off to the other two members that'll be speaking.
Thanks for having me. I used to live in California, but now I'm in Colorado, and I'm here to talk about the new Biophilic Design membership community after Austin introduces himself, but I'm going to be the community leader for that new community. I'm the founder of the Biophilic Design community on LinkedIn, one of the largest sustainable design communities dedicated to bringing together professionals and enthusiasts passionate about integrating nature into the built environment. I'm also a Biophilic consultant, and I have my own Biophilic design course. You can learn more at biophiliadesign.org. But I'm really excited about talking about this community in just a minute.
My name is Austin Hessler. I'm an architect in Baltimore, Maryland. So all the way on the other side of the United States. I focus on multifamily and affordable housing and sustainability integration. I am probably the baby of the group and more of a cheerleader for this. These guys are way more experienced than I am. I'll speak up and add some things that I think I can contribute, but I also co-chair AIA Committee on the Environment, and I am the Greater DC Community Leader alongside Rob Ost. And I also mentor high school students in architecture, construction, engineering.
Awesome. Okay, so dun dun dun, we are launching on February 18th. Of course, things can change, but that's the date that we have. We're going to be launching the new Biophilic Design membership group. And, the practice of biophilic design is continuing to evolve, and it is a hot topic right now. And so IFLI recognized the need to have like an actual specific dedicated space to bringing practitioners and enthusiasts together. Typically these membership communities have been very region-based. So this is one of the first special interest type ones. I think there's a new one that launched recently as well. And so we're really designing this group to help you harness that energy and passion that you have and find your people, your biophilic people. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to share. We're planning on launching this new group in collaboration with Living Future Europe, and Living Future Oceania. And we have made this exclusive to professional members. We really want this group to function as a true working group. And it is a special interest group, right? So it's designed for that next level of engagement, focused heavily on more practitioner level education and active involvement, we're hoping. On a personal note, yeah, I'm a volunteer and we're looking for very engaged, passionate people. So please sign up and meet me there once it's live. And we'll probably be asking for folks to potentially help as well as a leader too, because I cannot do it all on my own for sure. And just a quick note on access. While general events remain free to the broader community, this is the dedicated discussion space, and any CEU webinars are going to be strictly for professional members only. And yeah, this next slide. So this is our objective, and to build a vibrant community of professionals passionate about biophilic design. And the goal of this group is to serve as a hub for that deep connection, peer-to-peer knowledge and networking, really foster that collaborative. Yeah, if you don't mind going back, I'm still doing that.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. That's okay. I can say next slide. We really want to foster that collaborative network and share knowledge and resources to drive that innovation and really advance the Living Future mission. And the Living Future, yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Next slide. And what to expect specifically is learning and inspiration. So we're going to try to bring in, great case studies that Living Future has worked on, but also external ones as well. And we'd be happy to share and show community members what you guys are working on as well. Networking and collaboration, practical guidance and tips and tricks. I mean, this topic that you guys are talking about today would be absolutely perfect, for example, and we'll maybe work with y'all on something similar. Ideas and discussions and events and workshops. Thanks. Next slide. And this is part of a broader ecosystem, as I'm sure most of y'all are aware of. Living Future has a lot of existing biophilic design initiatives. So we're really just building on this. And in addition to providing all of these amazing things, we're now creating this other collaboration space to learn and connect around biophilia. But you can see there's a lot that Living Future already offers, and I'm going to be sharing this in our community as well. But anyway, that's my spiel. Thank you, and I hope to see you guys there soon.
Thank you, Alexandra. I think this is just kind of to close the presentation. These are the programs that ILFI manages and the projects that have received certification, the countries that are all over the world. I think I'm going to stop sharing this and now I'll pass it to Kristen.
All right, thanks, Diana. Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited to be here and share about facilitating biophilic design in charrettes. Lots of people have introduced themselves in the chat already. When we lead our when we do our community meetings, we usually like to put people in breakouts to do a little bit of introductions. We're gonna not do that today, but really encourage you to introduce yourself and feel free to have a discussion in the chat as we go. So I'm going to share my screen. One sec here. Okay. So, whoops. All right. Is everybody seeing the slides okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. So just to give a little bit more of an introduction so you know where I'm coming from, I lead a firm called Bio Studio. We just celebrated our 5th anniversary on New Year's Day, so 5-year-old company, focused on creating places where life thrives and projects that contribute to a living future for all. We organize ourselves according to what I would refer to as the 3 bios of regenerative design. So biophilic design, and also biomimicry, creating a built environment that works more like a natural ecosystem, and biodiversity. We also work on ecological restoration, planning and consulting. So my background, before founding Bio Studio, I worked for Arup in the energy and sustainability team out of San Francisco. And I have educational background in environmental studies, architecture, restoration ecology, as well as conservation planning facilitation. So that's probably good for background. Today, I'm probably a little ambitious on the amount of time we have, but I think we'll make it. I want to share, actually, I'm going to invite Maya, my colleague, who's here to share a little bit about the biophilic design resources that Living Future offers. And then the main focus is just going to be sharing my experience and the way that I structure a biophilic design charrette. Some of which is going to sound like what's in the biophilic design toolkit, and some of which is going to be a little different. And but I think it'll hopefully give everybody some ideas of how you might want to run your own biophilic design charrette. I'm also happy to talk to people. Feel free to reach out, talk about your project, and happy to be a resource. So, without
Kirsten,
further ado,
one
yes,
second,
go ahead.
just to kind of hammer in on that fact. This is why we have the community page. Feel free to ask anyone questions on there. People will respond. We're trying to get that to be livened up a little bit more. So by all means, ask us questions.
Yeah, so inside the member community page, when you log into Living Future, there's a much more active actually chat than we had over the last few years. Lots of people there with interesting things to talk about. Okay, so Maya, would you like to hop on and just review what's online for everybody in terms of Living Future biophilic design resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to the next page, so there's a link at the top here, livingfuture.org/biophilic-design. You can find some important links for biophilic design, including this access to the community and resource hub, member hub, discussion hub, learning hub, and within the learning hub, and to get to this resource hub, you just can click this button access the free toolkit that you'll find on that page. And then within that link, you can go down to learning and then resources. And then you can see this red button, access the toolkit there. And everybody, whether you have a free or a professional membership account, should have access to the toolkit. If you go next, please. So this is just a overview of what the toolkit includes. And then if you want to specifically download the Biophilic Design Guidebook, which you should absolutely do if you're leading a charrette or otherwise, that's within the Fundamentals of Biophilic Design module. And you can see here there's 5 modules. And then, as mentioned, there's a great community discussion board. There's one for sharing and learning, introducing yourself and learning about others, finding jobs or posting about job opportunities, etc. So it's both an educational and social hub for biophilia.
Awesome. Thank you, Maya. Okay. So what I'm going to do is take you through elements of how I typically facilitate a biophilic design charrette. One of the things that I do in a charrette is give the participants kind of a biophilic design briefing presentation, just so we're kind of all on the same. Usually, a lot of the time, it's a first introduction for members of the design and client team. I think probably for the majority of people here, it's not a first introduction, so I'm certainly not going to spend a lot of time on it, but I just want to show you, like, this is sort of the level that I would usually present. I mean, these are some of the slides that I would often present to brief everybody in workshop. And we're going to do this activity together too. I shout out to Terrapin. This was a exercise that I experienced in one of their workshops, and I was like, yeah, that's really good, and I always use it. So, like, right at the beginning, like we are now. So please do this actually while we're here. Picture your dream vacation spot, somewhere you would like to go that would make you feel happy, relaxed. Somewhere, be specific, like imagine yourself in a specific place. All right. So, show of hands, we're on Zoom here, so you can use the Zoom hands or you can just be on camera and put your hand up. How many people are picturing themselves in a place that is indoors? So what we're seeing is, oh, there's one. One person is indoors. Okay, very nice. Usually there's nobody that will raise their hand in a whole room full of people, even if they're architects who are focused on buildings, right? Nobody says indoors, or one, which was exciting. So it just shows that that we, it starts us right away. We're thinking about designing buildings, but we're all like, when we think of somewhere that makes us happy and relaxed, we're thinking about outdoor places. What about how many people have water? Is there water in the place you're picturing? Yep, I'm seeing, oh, lots of hands. Pop, pop, pop. Okay, awesome. Lots of water. How about trees? Do you imagine a tree or some trees in your place? What about like is the sun shining? Do you notice? Yes, lots of sun. Animals? Birds? Okay, great. So the idea, if I get back to my slides. There we go. What that shows people really quickly in a workshop where people haven't really thought about biophilic design before is that, like, we not just people in general, but we as individuals mostly are recognizing right away that we feel, when we imagine ourselves super happy and relaxed, we're in outdoor places, there's presence of water, the sun, the plants. So yet we are designing a building, right? And so biophilic design is all about harnessing the ability of nature to create those feelings for us, and bringing that into the built environment. A little bit of kind of research-based information to sort of come at this from a different angle. There have been lots of studies that demonstrate, how people are healthier and happier when they're connected to nature. Here's one of the first examples where surgery patients in a hospital, they could see out to trees and planted views, recovered a full day faster, and took half the painkillers compared with those who did have a window and did have daylight, but didn't really have a view. They had a view of a brick wall. Another study where forest bathing, more and more people are familiar with what forest bathing is. Basically the practice of taking a mindful walk in the woods. Having done that for half hour, people's stress hormone, cortisol levels were tested, and they were markedly lower than like a control group who didn't do the forest bathing, not just for the rest of that day, but for days after they did this forest bathing exercise. So if we know these things, we know that people are healthier and less stressed and happier in contact with nature, in the forest rather. What would a built forest be, perhaps? This is an example, Paley Park in New York. It's a really small built space, totally surrounded by buildings, but you have this sort of built forest where you get the dappled light, you get the tree canopy overhead. There's a waterfall so that you hear rushing water and it drowns out the city noise. What if you're in more of a full indoor environment? Perhaps you could isolate just the dappled light effect from that tree canopy and get some of the same benefits for people's well-being. What else is a built forest? Well, maybe you're just sort of suggesting a path and a clearing at the end of the path with a much more built version of a tree canopy overhead. Going from the literal to the patterns, people's perception of safety, attention, and reduced stress and boredom are really enhanced by having prospect, a view, and refuge, a sense of kind of a wall at your back or being enclosed and safe. So what does that look like in a building? Well, maybe it's a cozy window seat with a view. Maybe it's surrounding yourself with plants and your view is actually into the computer screen. And finally, I'll just mention Keller in 2008 did this study that showed that if people feel connected to functional natural systems, it shifts their perception of space and you have positive health responses. And I'll mention that some of these kinds of images, when I'm setting up a presentation for a workshop, I try to use more regional images for the place that I'm located. So I have lots of different versions of some of these. So what is a natural system? What is a kind of mini ecosystem? Well, people would probably have a better response to a biodiverse living wall than a monoculture living wall, because you can start to imagine a mini ecosystem functioning. So is this showing you sort of a mini natural ecosystem? What if you have a screen showing a video of a real natural ecosystem? Will that evoke those same responses? What if you are just exposing how the water is collected and moved through a site? That might connect people to natural systems. So just giving some examples. And then diving into design guidance for biophilic design. Doesn't want to advance. Oops, there we go. We have Kellert's 6 categories of biophilic design, which is what Living Building Challenge highlights. And then we also have Terrapin's 14 patterns of biophilic design. And even if I'm working on a Living Building Challenge project, I really like to use the 14 patterns. I think they're a little bit easier for people to connect with directly, but I link them over to the 6 categories. So you'll see that here. Oops, having a little trouble with my slide advance here. Weird. Sorry, guys. Try to just press it once and wait, I guess. There we go. So the first of the 6 categories, environmental features in building, links over to the first of the terrapin patterns, visual connection with nature. So views to the outdoors, indoor plants, daylight. You can imagine a forest and how that shows up more literally in a building, environmental features. Also in that category could be non-visual connection with nature, all the other senses, hearing, water, feeling, air movement, scent, a way that a waterfall might show up or be suggested in a building. Natural shapes and forms, biomorphic forms, curves, spirals, fungi, natural patterns and processes, including complexity and order, things like fractals, visible support structures, and being able to understand the hierarchy, etc. Some examples. And then light in space corresponds to the dynamic and diffuse light pattern, filtered or dappled light, variability in light conditions. Here's a nice example. Place-based relationships. So we go beyond connection to nature and also think about connection with cultural systems, with place. So history, cultural identity, imagery. So here we are in Salt Lake City with the Great Salt Lake and the mountains, and then how that might show up, how that shows up in a mural. Both of those can be part of biophilic design. And then evolved human-nature relationships, which includes a few more of the terrapin patterns, prospect, refuge, which I mentioned, and then a sense of mystery or even risk and peril, where we know that there's actually safety, but you feel the risk. So, oops, gotta let my dog in. Working at the door. So you have some local landscapes and how they might again be interpreted in a building. So that's just kind of that's the sort of presentation that I usually give. I try to keep it reasonably brief, but make sure that everybody's basically on the same page about what we're talking about when we say biophilic design. So now I'm going to jump into more directly talking about, and I'll just say, I can't see people's faces or the chat right now while I'm presenting. So if anybody has any questions, feel free, or comments, feel free to speak up and jump in. I'll pause for a second if anyone wants to do that. Okay. So now I'm going to get into actually specifically talking about the biophilic design charrette and starting with some advanced preparation tips to support success. So if you can, we can't always do this, but if you can give yourself plenty of time, it can take a really long time to figure out who needs to be there and align their schedules. And then once you actually are setting the workshop, I would recommend having at least a month until from when you say we know the date to when the date actually is happening. Ideally, even more. I've done it on 2 weeks, but it's not fun. Have some pre-meetings, prepare with the client, make sure you understand what their goals and priorities are, and not just for biophilic design, but for the whole project. So I always want my workshops to be really relevant to where the project actually is and advance the critical path. Like we want to be doing this workshops at the very beginning in concept, but we can't always do that. We're leading one on Maui in a couple of weeks where the project, like most of the geometry is already set, but so we just need to work with where we are and what kinds of things need to come out of the workshop. And we can, even sort of combine with other sorts of workshops to some extent if we need to keep it really relevant. Make sure that when you develop the agenda, agree with the client, integrate feedback. The agenda should include something about the kind of setting the stage in the local ecosystem and culture. If you're not from the place, you can do that if you need to, but ideally you invite someone in who's really steeped in the ecosystem and the place, and they give a presentation that kind of inspires everybody and sets the stage. I also encourage you to think ahead about what outputs you need. How are you're going to do activities, and you'll get content from that, and what are you going to turn that into, and what reports is it going to end up in? What do you want to get? Make sure that you're designing your activities so that you get the outputs you want. Where are you going to host your charrette? Can it be a biophilic building or a really beautiful natural place so people can experience that? And but at the same time, we have to balance that with what do we actually need? Do we need a presentation screen? Do we need a seating for 30? Do we need places to pin up boards and put sticky notes? So, ideally you have some of both. Ideally you visit the actual project site, or host the whole thing there if it's feasible. Certainly figure out what materials will be required for each activity, and be very thorough about that, and allow yourself time to produce those. And how are you going to get on a plane with all of them, or can they be printed in place? Feed people well, allow for plenty of breaks, and above all, it should be fun and inspiring and inclusive so that everybody feels like they have ownership of the outcome, and they're bought into what comes out of it. These are some typical agenda elements that I like to include. I might jump right into my case study workshop. Well, I'll read through this real quick. So I always start a workshop with everybody gets to talk and introduce themselves, and do an icebreaker that actually is relevant to the project. What would make this project a success for you? Something about connection to nature, since it's a biophilic design charrette. I'll usually have the architect or someone give a little briefing on where we are in the project and how this relates to, are we targeting Living Building Challenge, how it relates to that. I mentioned that it's great to bring somebody in who's inspiring to talk about local ecosystem or culture in some way. I like doing a walk on the site where we're focusing on our different senses and what we observe. And then a presentation like the one I just gave then usually leads into an activity that's kind of, which I'll show you in the example, but I often base it on some of those research studies, and but flip it around. So if you know what outcome you want in your building, then what biophilic patterns might you want to employ? It's nice to have a variety of modes for different kinds of people, different kinds of abilities and comfort levels speaking in public. So think, pair, share is a great activity where like you answer the question for yourself first, you write something down, you share it with your neighbor, and then maybe you share out to the whole group. Helps people who are more comfortable and like sort of ideating on their own or just talking to one person. And then on the flip side, I like the World Cafe activity, which is more the whole group kind of ideating together or in breakouts. And then some kind of multimedia exercise, a vision collage, etc. And then an opportunity to close, circle up, everybody gets to talk and share something that was a key takeaway for them. So every workshop is different, but those are some of the elements that show up a lot in our office. So now what I'm going to do is take you through a case study biophilic design workshop. This is for the Tower Theater in Salt Lake City. You're going to see the ideas. It's not the final. So if anybody's in Salt Lake City or knows the tower, we're not necessarily doing exactly what we show here. But it's going to show you kind of how we design the exercises and then what kinds of outputs they give us, and how that then plays into developing the deliverables. This is like our internal agenda. So I'm pretty detailed with these sometimes to make sure that it's clear, like how exactly what happens, who speaks. You don't need to read all this, but this was a really cool workshop in that the client, the Salt Lake Film Society, they went big on kind of an inspirational culture community based event that the whole design team was invited to, so that we could really get to know their place, it was a film event. Well, actually, first we started at the theater, the historic theater itself. And I'm going to say this is a particularly challenging project for biophilic design because it's a renovation of an existing building and it doesn't have a lot of site. So you're not going to see as many pictures of the outdoors and nature here as you might usually see thinking about biophilic design, but I think that's a strength because it reminds us that any biophilic design is not just about putting plants in the building and or having views, and we can do biophilic design of any space, even in indoor renovation. So in this case, the site that we wanted to kind of have a sensory experience of is the existing building in the auditorium. So we did it. And we also had an intro exercise where people got to talk about the significance of that place to them. And this was the output of what the kinds of things that people said about the place and how we would show it in an outcome document. They held this great event where someone showed a local film called 95 Senses. And then the next day we were doing a sort of sensory experience, sensory focus in the historic auditorium, which produced outputs about kind of what people were experiencing with their different senses and how they envisioned that should be in the new building. Then those were kind of day one kind of prep events, and then the day two event, which looks a little bit more like it's more the core biophilic design charrette. We were able to host it delightfully at an aviary in Salt Lake City, and the building itself is quite nice. You can see it has lots of natural materials, good daylight, plants. So it was a lovely space. And someone from the aviary came and spoke about birds and bird-safe buildings. And that was a nice kind of a kickoff and grounding in the place and the ecosystem. Sorry, I'm having weird advancing again. There we go. Then I did that presentation and then at the end of the presentation, introduced this table that comes from 14 patterns of biophilic design. There's been at times I keep thinking about doing an updated table that lines up with the 6 categories to make it a little easier to translate into Living Building Challenge. But I often just come back to this one because it's a nice tool and it's already set up so that what people can think about is, okay, what am I most interested in my space? What are the outcomes I want? Am I most interested in, is this maybe a university and I'm really interested in the students' cognitive performance? Is it more about stress reduction? Is it more about experience and mood, emotion, which is more true, I'd say, for the Tower Theater, that one, and stress reduction. So when you pick out the thing you're most interested in happening, maybe improved perception of temporal and spatial pleasure, then you go to the side and you can say which biophilic design pattern might help me achieve that outcome that I want. Here's thermal and airflow variability. Once you do that, you can think, okay, how could I get thermal and airflow variability in my space in the Tower Theater? So we gave people printouts of this table. We set them up at tables and we gave them this kind of worksheet to fill out by first, this is think, pair, share. Like first, think about it yourself, write down what's the outcome you want, what's a pattern that would do that, and then talk with your neighbor, pair. Kind compare, understand theirs, you share yours, and then what are some design ideas that would achieve that? So we had 30 of these or something like that, where people filled them out and talked about it and shared out some of the things. And then these ended up in a lot of different outputs that I'll show you some more of them. One of them is here on the left are some of the things that people said that they wanted, what were some of the outcomes they were after. And then on the right, we're talking about what are some of the key biophilic patterns that we would like to see that would help us to achieve those things. Number of blue dots indicates how many people mentioned that as one of their most important outcomes. So then we did the vision collage, which I really like. To prepare for this, people, we used to always do our own imagery for this, print out a whole bunch of images, and we're thinking about showing images of local nature, and we're thinking about including some biophilic spaces. Now I also like to invite team members to put in their own images too. So we have this big table full of printout images. Everybody's got boards and markers and some tape and connectors and stuff, and we're asking people to the question prompt can be very directly biophilic. How can we connect people to nature in this building? What should that look like? What should that feel like? Or I think here we were prompting people more like, what should the experience be like? Show us your vision of what the experience of the space should feel like. So these are some of the collages that we got out, and people present them and talk about what they're thinking about. And you can see a mix of kind of film and culture and local natural elements showing up, inspiration from the slot canyons for these kind of like enclosed cave-like theater spaces. So that's that. And then we do the World Cafe. Here, I'll pause. Were there questions? Okay, let's keep going. So World Cafe is one of my favorite workshop activities because it's I think that you have to make sure that people can always be active, and I try not to let like a single whole group conversation ever go on too long. And in the World Cafe, we have boards around the room. We've divided the group up into however many groups it takes to cover the topics we want, or have a reasonable size group, 5, 6 people at most. And people go around, it's like breakouts, except we're all in the same space. And you might give people, so here in this case, we were doing biophilic design ideas by space of the building. How are we going to connect people to nature and natural patterns in each space that we have in this building? And everyone starts broken up in groups at one of the boards. They ideate about it for 5, 6, 7 minutes, and then somebody stays behind while everybody else rotates to the next board. And that person who stayed behind gives them a little briefing on what's been discussed so far, and then that group goes ahead and puts their ideas up, do the same thing again until everybody's had a chance to put up ideas at each board. And then the people who stayed at each board that whole time, they do the share out to kind of summarize the ideas that are on the board. After that, we give everybody some blue dots, like a big strip, maybe like 10 blue dots, and then 5 yellow dots. And people have a chance to put the blue dots on their very favorite ideas they're most excited about. And yellow indicates like, I'm concerned about this, I have a question, something like that. And then that really helps with the post-processing of a sticky note brainstorm. So we know we can hone in on the blue dot ideas and make sure that those have some focus because they have the most resonance with the group. So this is how we processed the World Cafe brainstorm for this workshop. So we listed all the ideas. We showed how many dots, how much resonance each one had. And then we plotted them on this diagram that helps to sort like which are the things that are going to be quite expensive or challenging, but really valuable. Which are the things that are probably not too expensive, pretty easy, and they're still really valuable. And then the orange and the red are more like, it's hard and it's not as, it's easy here, but it's not that valuable, and it's hard and not that valuable, the things that we don't need to do. We're probably not going to do those things as much. And on here, we judged that none of the ideas actually belonged in those categories, but some of the charts have things down there. And the client reviewed it and they moved some things down. Okay, and then here's a more from that same, just for one of the spaces, from that same activity, for the kind of framework document, we end up with a summary to introduce this big, long list of ideas that calls out some of the more resonant ideas and you know, what we're thinking for the actual biophilic design direction for that space. We also had some table breakouts where we're like looking at a plan of the space and thinking about ideas. So yeah, that gives you a sense of the, and then like I said, always a kind of whole group circle up at the end where everybody can say one of their key takeaways, give an appreciation, whatever they want to do, and that leaves everybody feeling with usually it really leaves everyone feeling great about what we did, what we achieved, the potential of the project, the potential of biophilic design. And that was definitely true for the tower. So I'm almost done here. Quick thought, just review of like, where do you need to go with the outcomes if you're doing a living building challenge project? They're looking for 3 things. One is a Charrette outcomes document where all those different kind of things that I was showing you would go in there. It's intended to be a comprehensive record of what came out of the workshop. This is just the table of contents. It's basically just documenting the whole thing with the agenda and attendees. Then you need a biophilic framework document, which is kind of distilling all of that down to what does the client and the design team really want to move forward with? What's the guidance to the team? And so this is again just the outline of that, where we're introducing the project, the goals, people's priorities, and then what are the biophilic design strategies we came up with. And we're showing them in this case by space. We're showing them by the 6 categories, which is a key component they want. And highlighting some inspired by Utah ideas. So just a couple examples of some of the, in addition to all those outcomes that I showed you, we put in things like a summary of big themes and a goal that comes with it, and what some of the key ideas or strategies are that support those, support that key theme. This is one of 3 that we did for Tower. And then this is a section with the actual ideas people have that are that we're thinking to carry forward by category. So you've got environmental features. We list some of the ideas, and we worked with the client to come up with resonant images that help to illustrate the ideas. Natural spaces and forms, natural patterns and processes, light and space, place-based relationships, human-nature relationships. Okay, so Alexandra's asking how budget comes into things and when we would introduce that. So that diagram that I showed you a little ways back is a beginning of thinking about that. It's where we are considering cost. I don't know why my screen isn't very happy advancing. Here we go. this guy here is a way to start understanding what are the cheaper things, what are the more expensive things, how to, and starting to kind of prioritize. It's not a quantitative exercise, but it's starting to think about budget. I generally, on projects in general, not limited to biophilic design, but also like more broadly in sustainability, I try to, with clients, use a sort of holistic way of thinking about budgets where we recognize that some things have different costs, some things have a return on investment, some things don't. And like you want to have overall you want to arrive at a package of strategies and good design elements, good elements in the building, a package that like together hits the budget and provides an acceptable return on investment, right? So some people might be tempted to sort of cut everything that doesn't have a return, or sort of draw a line, like apply the same criteria to each strategy. And I encourage people to have more of a mix of expensive things that are really valuable and, you know, cheaper things that as a unit gets you to where you want to go. Somebody just showed me, I'm going to forget what this was called, but just yesterday I saw a McKinsey graph that kind of puts each strategy on a graph and with kind of cost and benefit, and then it allows you to kind of do this exercise I'm talking about where you figure out like how far you go up on that graph. Maybe some people know that curve I'm talking about. All right, let me finish this real quick and then we can go back, have a little more discussion. So once we in the framework, we're going from the design ideas we have by category to starting to show some of the specific design ideas for different spaces. So here you see some ideas about planting in the stairwell, using old film reels maybe as planters. This project is working really hard on equity and accessibility. And we have the privilege and pleasure of having two people who are wheelchair users on our design teams, really like helping us to understand what we need to be thinking about. So it was really important to them that if we were going to do something in the stairwell, we do something cool in the elevator too. So we've got this moss wall idea for the elevator. We share again kind of the biophilic inspiration along with design ideas. So here's a night sky. One of the really resonant things is to do projection mapping that can be used to show all kinds of different kind of Utah nature landscapes in these enclosed spaces of theater. So this will show up in the framework. And then there's the plan, which is really much more about like, what are we going to do when to make sure we get this done, timeline, schedule. So with the last, sorry, I can say past one if people have additional questions, but I think I won't read all this because I do want to give time for a little discussion. But facilitation tips, just I think to really make it a success, like you do really need to be a good facilitator. And what that means to me are things like being just really focusing on inclusion and welcome and making sure everybody gets to express their ideas. We have diverse opportunities for people, you know, different kinds of activities that suit different personalities so that everybody gets to contribute. Of course, just setting a positive tone, energetic, take care of yourself so that you can show up in that way, right? Whatever it is you need to do that morning to bring your best. Don't forget about yourself, but also take care of the group. Think about food and breaks, enough time. It's a good idea to do, I don't always do this, but it is a good idea to do ground rules, even let the group come up with kind of what they want their rules of engagement to be for a workshop. Practical things like writing big and not giving people lined stickies, giving them markers and unlined stickies so that you can read the outcomes. listening, validation, and this was a big one I learned recently at a training I was doing. You are in a position of power as a facilitator, as a leader. And if you start putting up your own ideas, it can make people feel really disempowered. So I learned, like, as tempting as it might be, like, don't be a participant while leading. And if you really want to give your own ideas, then you can say something like, I'm taking off my facilitator hat and putting on my, biophilic design specialist hat for a moment here, and here's my idea. And then I'm putting it back. It actually makes a difference to do stuff like that. Figuring out ways for people to give feedback. And then there are some great facilitation trainings out there, or you can always shadow an experienced facilitator. So happy to, as I said, if people want to talk to me about things that they're doing and, follow up, happy to do that. Here's my contact information, and thank you very much. And now let's take our last few minutes. There's been lots of questions in the chats. Let me try and address a few of them. Who should be there? So there are, there's a bunch of specific, like, Living Future definitely wants the whole design team to be there. I also want the whole design team to be there. It's a important, kind of, it can be a great bonding experience, and you want everybody to have that same kind of, like, touchstone going forward in the project. Some people will also invite key community members, the client, certainly the client, like the decision makers, really important that they should be there. Staff, like, and then sometimes community members. It can be a way to, like, if there are important folks, like potential donors, or people in the community who represent interests or who know something about the ecosystem or place, it's great to include them if they're kind of friends of the organization. Do participants bill their time? I have not generally. I think, like, if clients invite their staff, they're paying their staff. If you invite a community member, you should be thinking about budgeting for a stipend for them, especially if they're presenting or something like that. I think every project is different in that way. It's great if you can. Design team members will generally also be billing for their something. So yeah, I guess largely yes, but it's not usually on the Biophilic Design Charrette presenter to manage everybody else's budgets. But you may want to think about, when you budget when you do a proposal, like setting some budget aside to pay an outside presenter or something like that. Okay. Other questions or comments? People are starting to have to go, so thanks a lot for coming. I'm happy to hang out a little bit longer if people have more questions or want to discuss.
Just really quickly, Kristen, hopefully you can hear me and I can just ask a quick question instead of typing.
Yeah.
Timing or time frame, as far as how, like, what is an ideal charrette timing versus like, what have you felt in your experience there wasn't enough time allotted, or have you ever been in a situation where there was too much time?
Yeah, I've never really had too much time. Things have a way of expanding, but I do think people get tired after, say, maybe 5 or 6 hours. Like, Living Future says, do an all-day exploration. I interpret all day as sort of somewhere over like 4 hours. Because yeah, people do, if we really work intensively like this, then between 4 and 8 hours, not necessarily 8 hours, because people do start to get tired. But I think like 5, sort of I would tend not to ever go shorter than like 4. And when you want to do a few activities that are an hour everything takes like an hour at least when you consider that at the end you want people to be sharing out, and that takes time. And then you need breaks in between activities. You can fill up 5 or 6 hours pretty quickly without any trouble, I think. And then also sometimes we'll do these something related the night before. A group goes out to dinner afterwards, and those are also kind of it's part of it as well.
Thank you so much.
I'm looking in the chat. Is the biophilic design charrette typically done by the architect, or can other disciplines lead one? I mean, anybody who is capable of leading a biophilic design charrette can do it. I think I personally, as I've explained, like I'm a consultant. I come from a sustainability consulting background and do, a range of things, including more restoration ecology now, but so in my projects, generally, like I'm a specialist coming in to do it, or I'm the sustainability consultant and doing the biophilic charrette. But yeah, I would think anybody. I don't think that there's any limitation for the core discipline of the person who does this, as long as they're familiar with biophilic design and they have some experience facilitating.
I was gonna say, even before you brought it up, that it seems the facilitator really is the key element of the charrette, just from kind of what the examples you were giving and everything, and how, I mean, I've participated in many community meetings, many design charrettes related to designing a project, a building project, and for this in particular, the facilitator is the key, seems like.
I think so. I think so. Yeah, the style of and method of facilitation is very important for any content, including biophilic design. Yes. Let's see. Were there any other questions? Did I miss anything?
Sammy asks, what are the biggest challenges you typically face?
Challenges. Yeah. Well, getting enough advance time to really prepare everything thoroughly is always a challenge. In the actual workshop, I think things come up, like one person is talking too much, or, some people are less engaged, and there's, there are just like any other kind of workshop, there are ways to deal with that in a, maintaining your positive attitude, but kind of asking people to pause so that others can jump in, or, hopefully you can resolve some of those things by design, by making sure that you're not like just having that one conversation with the whole big group where one person talks at a time, instead doing these activities where, if you're in World Cafe, essentially 5 people are talking at a time, right? Because you have 5 groups and each one is an active conversation at once, or, having ways, but there are, ways to kind of someone's having a side conversation, kind of keep facilitating, but walk over there in their general area, so they, because they're adults, but also you need to kind of keep the meeting on track for the benefit of everybody. So those kinds of things. I think it's definitely like there's a balance. I guess scope creep is a thing that comes up, like it needs to be a biophilic design charrette, but then there's also other important things that are going on in the project too. So how do you like trying to make sure that you stake out enough time to really focus on biophilic design, but maybe you then also have a section that's an hour, that's that are breakout tables on other important topics that are important for the project right now, that kind of thing. And then just keeping the flame alive after the workshop is sometimes a challenge, I guess, making sure that like biophilic design is on the design agendas, and you're continuing to develop and integrate the strategies. I find that to be sometimes a bit challenging. Yeah. Anything else?
Does that require just additional follow-ups with like the design team, would you say?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think, there's like in the immediate after period, then it's about producing the outcomes document, getting everybody to review it, getting everybody on board with the final, and then getting that framework together so that and the plan so that you know what needs to be happening in each phase of design. But yeah, I think it's probably most effective. Oh, well, I'd be interested in what other people think if anybody has ideas about this, but I think it's probably most effective to be integrating it in broader design meetings so that we're checking in on key stuff that's going on in the project. We're also checking in on the biophilic design ideas and, are they showing up the way that they should be showing up? You could have dedicated biophilic design meetings, but there's, not every project will continue to allocate dedicated time for one topic like that, right? So nothing wrong with having it be a topic in a general design meeting ongoing. Okay. Well, thank you all very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Kristen.
Yes, thank you so much.
And thanks for organizing, Austin. This was your idea originally, so
I'm
shout
just
out
the
to
idea
you.
guy. You guys did most of the work.
The idea guy, things do not happen without the idea guy.
Sure.
So thank you. And thanks Deanna and Hannah for your organization, and Maya and Alexandra. I don't think she's here anymore, but we're excited for that biophilic membership community to start up.
Yes, very
Yeah.
much so.
Well, we'll see you all hopefully in the next meeting or in Seattle for the Living Building conference, hopefully.
Yes.
Yep,
Have a
hope to
good
see
one,
you.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Have a good
Thanks.
day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.